Hi guys, Lemmy here. Welcome back to another video. I know it has been a hot minute since I've made an art-related topic video, but I figured, why not? Today we're going to be chatting about the idea of darker skin tones being more difficult to color than lighter skin tones. And I know by this point, I'm sure most viewers have read the title and have very strong feelings one way or another. Hopefully, I'll be able to open up the idea a bit more so we can have a good discussion in the comments below. So, are darker skin tones more difficult to color than lighter skin tones? Is this a fact, a myth? Does this idea have any standing? Or is it just an excuse that people use? Let's take it a bit further. Are light skin tones more difficult to color than dark skin tones? Is there any difference between paler skin colors and deeper skin colors as it pertains to methodology of coloring? This video is inspired by another YouTuber named Penguinesque, who I absolutely adore. A few months ago, she made a video discussing artist pet peeves. And she mentioned that one of her pet peeves is when an artist says that they don't draw people of color because coloring darker skin tones is too difficult. Penguinesque goes on to say that people of color are not hard to draw, but those people just haven't practiced it and don't seem to want to. She also mentioned that she was in agreement with another YouTuber about this topic. And, okay, I really don't like paraphrasing what people say, so I really recommend that you check out the video and hear what she has to say and how she says it. I will link it for you guys down below. Penguinesque is a great person with wonderful artwork and just really solid content. I absolutely love her, and I think that you guys will as well. So I will link her channel down below also. If you want to get to know her and support her channel, please take a moment and check her out. So my initial thought after hearing that comment was that for me and my own personal experiences, I've always felt that it was harder to color a darker skin tone. And I've struggled to do a good job with coloring darker skin tones. Like, I spend much more time, I try much harder, and I always feel like the end result doesn't do justice to how I wanted the artwork to turn out. And I thought a bit more about it and why I feel the way I do. And I was thinking, did I just mislabel the task as more difficult? Or is it really that, maybe the reality is I simply don't practice enough? If I practiced more, would it be as easy for me to paint a picture of a darker skinned individual as it is a lighter skinned individual? Keep in mind that this is my own personal experience. I mean, you might be completely different. It might be really easy for you to color a darker, deeper skin tone, and your experiences are just as legitimate. And I don't want to act like my thoughts are the one and only. So please keep that in mind as we go on. We're also going to take a moment and get a little bit sidetracked. I fully realize that talking openly about skin colors can be very dangerous territory. This is the internet. And I want to stress that this video isn't about ethnicity. It's just about coloring a skin tone, like any color. So for example, a light baby blue skin color for me would be easier to color than a dark Prussian blue skin color. Or a pink color is easier for me to color than a maroon color. And in fact, this video can pretty much be translated to anything other than skin even. So for example, we could be discussing hair color right now, and this idea would still apply. That being said, however, I did pick skin tone for a reason. I think skin has the potential to be one of the more complicated and difficult topics to color. Or at least I certainly think it's more difficult than something like painting a vase or hair or something else. There's something luminous about skin and how the light reflects off of it, different skin temperatures, skin colors. And okay, heck, you could use purple, blue, and green to shade a natural looking skin tone. And green isn't the most obvious of colors to use. So skin can get complicated, but when it's done convincingly, looks absolutely amazing, regardless of how light or dark the person being colored is. So I just want to be clear that I am in no way trying to offend anyone. I actually am hoping that this video will result in encouraging other people to expand the range of colors that they use in their own artworks and changing up the look of individuals that they draw. And I just hope that this video will end up inspiring people to just change up what they do and who they represent in their artwork. So getting back on topic, while I do think it's legitimately more difficult for me, personally, to color a darker skin tone, I really wanted to pinpoint why I feel this is. So after thinking about it, I came up with a few points to share and what I've done personally to try to improve my own way of coloring. And I figure, hey, maybe someone will find it helpful if they're in a similar spot. And to you guys watching, if you have a method that you use and you find it helpful, feel free to share them below. It doesn't matter if it's tips and tricks for light, middle, or dark skin colors. Feel free to share anything you think would be helpful for coloring any type of skin tone. The first problem I pinpointed stems from the fact that I love drawing cartoons. And based on that, you may have already guessed, but my issue is line art. I love me some crisp lines, like the dark black ink against the white paper. It really pops, and it's very eye-catching. And I guess the issue that I have is maintaining that high contrast against the line art so that the lines continue to pop against the page. And I struggle with darker colors that are a similar value to the black of the lines without visually losing that line work. The same idea can pertain to a lighter skin tone. If you use a very light color to do the line art and then color over it, even with a very pastel palette of colors, you can very easily lose those lines if the value is too similar. This isn't such a huge problem if you're actually making a manga or a comic page, because you can just use screen tones to shade and represent colors. And screen tones are usually broken up in a dot-like pattern, which helps when printing, but also helps us when looking at the panels on the page. So different screen tones have different textures, which can help us visually break apart the environment in an easier manner. Another cool thing to mention is that screen tones are available in a range of grays, or even as dark as black, and yet they'll all stand out from the line art, which is great. However, just coloring darker color has always just been trickier for me. Coloring midtones without losing my lines is a lot easier for me to accomplish, but a dark color has always been so super tricky to me. And actually, one of the most difficult characters I've had to color was for a sub-raffle that I did on Twitch. I was supposed to humanize this really cute Kirby character, from Nintendo's Kirby, that had just completely black skin. Think black mages from Final Fantasy franchise, black skin with the really cute, kind of like Jawas with the yellow eyes. Okay, the character was absolutely adorable, but trying to turn them into a human and giving them facial features on such dark black skin is really difficult. For me, anyway. And I mean, some of you guys probably could just do a stellar job. But me, not so much. Like, it was really hard for me to kind of figure out what I was doing here. The best I could do was alternate black with a very dark red and a cooler blue. Also very dark blue, but a cooler kind of blue. And I mixed the colors together so that some of the lighter areas would have a bit of a warm tone against the cooler tones of the black skin. And, like, seriously, this was a challenge for me. And even though I like how it looked in the end, I still wonder if there could have been a better way, that I could have presented the character without completely losing the lines in the coloring. Like, if I could have just some other way that just would have ended up being better. And I suppose you could use a mid-ranged color as a highlight, which would help kind of break up the features of the face. But this character's skin didn't have any highlights whatsoever on it, and I was really worried about changing the art too much from the original concept. Also, if you have too many or too large highlighted areas, then the topic you're coloring begins to look more like the highlighted color than the intended actual color that the object actually is. I think I said actually a lot. So my advice in this situation would be to use various colors. So strategically place those shadows, and be sure to cast some environmental shadows. When you feel brave enough, you probably have to kind of like work your way up to that, like I do. And I know a lot of tutorials on YouTube, everyone's like highlight, base, shadow color, 3 colors. And then they show how to color a variety of skin tones with the same exact method. However, I don't really think that is the best method. It's sort of like a tutorial for someone who has no idea how to start, I think. But I don't think it looks convincing or is the end-all solution to coloring all of your skin tones. So, that's my first point, the struggle of line art. Obviously, if you don't use lines in your art, then this might not pertain to you very much. But for me, it was always something I had to be really mindful of. The other major issue that I was able to pinpoint is that I have a watercolor mindset. And this isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it is how I learned to color growing up. Like, it's so bad. Okay, I used to paint with acrylics, and they were so watered down that they mimicked watercolors. So I've always leaned towards coloring this way. But let me explain what I mean by all this and how it pertains to what we're talking about right now. The watercolor mindset. Essentially, you start off with a stark white piece of paper, because most watercolor paper is stark white. And then you would slowly build up color with washes and layering. And watercolor is very translucent, beautiful paint that is intended to be watered down. Eventually, after building up your layers, your colors get deeper. However, your highlights generally remain the same unless you decide to switch it up. The highlights of your painting are the areas that you never laid paint down upon. A lot of purists, I guess they call them watercolor purists, believe that you should never add white to your paint and that the paper itself is the highlight. Obviously, not all artists are the same and agree with this, but it's something to keep in mind. I guess I'll just say, it's not right, it's not wrong, it's just a method. So let's go on. Watercolor was one of the first mediums that I learned to use, along with colored pencils, which I use in a very similar fashion, always retaining the white of the paper. And when I began to try to shade people of darker skin tones, or aliens like Steven Universe, gems and stuff, I immediately found it extremely challenging to do without whitewashing the character's skin. And I know I'm not really using that term correctly, but what I mean to say is that if you lay a translucent, watered-down wash onto the paper, the paint may be brown or an orange or, some deep, warm, fleshy skin color, but the white of the paper shows through and gives the color a lighter and an almost like whiter appearance. And then there are additional potential issues. So depending on the watercolor brand that you own, adding additional layers of washes can get a bit hairy. You can actually lift up the color you laid down previously when what you're trying to do is just deepen the color with another layer. Also, depending on your level of experience and your level of know-how, you'd have to combat things like bloom effects or warping of the paper because it might puddle, and you might have varying levels of success when trying to combat these things. I've personally found that changing up my methods to do a more opaque style of coloring using something like acrylics properly, or gouache, where the white of the paper doesn't show through, I've had a much better chance of making a picture that I'm personally happy with. And I'm not out here telling you that you have to do it my way. I'm just saying, for me, I've had results that I like a lot better than if I were to use just straight up watercolor. It's something I've always struggled with. And there are people out there who will use watercolor and make all these beautiful portraits of all these different skin colors, and they will do amazing. But for me, it's never really been that way. And I've practiced a lot, and it's always just been something that I'm just never pleased with. I know I mentioned colored pencils earlier and how I use them like watercolors, but another thing to mention is that if you like using the color of the paper, like I do, buying paper that has a medium tone, like a brown or a gray, or any sort of colored paper, makes coloring a darker skin tone much more easy when starting out, at least in my personal experience. Like, you don't need to worry about adding additional layers as a base to start off on, or worrying that the white of the paper is going to come through. If your paper is a medium tone, you're already closer to where you want to be, and you haven't done anything to mess with the integrity of the paper surface just yet. By using a middle tone paper, you can pick and choose exactly what colors you want your highlights to be. And you don't have to worry nearly as much about whitewashing your subject matter because that white of the paper isn't going to show through because it's just not existent. There are many skilled artists out there who can use a bright white piece of paper and make an absolutely amazing picture of any character with any skin color. But if you're not quite there yet, there's no shame in changing up your methods until you achieve the look that you're going for. Try different things to make something that you're pleased with. And those are the two things that I've struggled with that I was able to pinpoint. And skin is actually one of my very favorite things to color. As much as I talked about it and how difficult it can be, it's really interesting how varying skin temperature, the highlight color, the shadow color, the surrounding environment effects, it can all totally change the appearance of a person. Like a dark, creepy forest versus a bright, sunny day at the beach, skin, hair, eyes will all look totally different. Keep in mind that skin is not one flat color, like your base color isn't the end all. But, I find that all of these factors are what makes skin such an interesting thing to color to me. Let's get back to what the video is about. So my final thoughts. Is it really more difficult or just that I haven't practiced enough. And honestly, I think maybe the truth lies in the middle somewhere. If you try to do a good job coloring something, and it forces you to think outside of the box from how you would normally accomplish a task, and you push yourself to achieve something, then yes, you have challenged yourself, and it was more difficult for you. And you might be saying like, well, isn't that just another way of saying that you haven't practiced enough? And I don't think it's nearly as simple as the lack of practice. It's about training yourself to look at accomplishing a task differently. You could practice the same thing over and over and over and over again, but you may never get it to look just the right way that you want it to be unless you change up the method of what you're doing. I know that for me personally, coloring more opaquely and more deeply is more difficult, and probably always will be, as I have to think more about what I'm doing and how to achieve the look of what I want. And I find that the watercolor mindset of using the paper, it's always been very relaxing to me, and it's what I default back to in my own personal time. And it makes me wonder that if someone is of a more acrylic painting mindset, that the transition into coloring various skin tones, like, would it be easier for them? And this is just food for thought. I really don't have anything to base this on. I could totally be projecting, but that's kind of like some of the things that I think about. It's all based on my own personal experiences. I mean, I could be totally wrong about what I just said, but I also wonder, like, maybe other people who color more opaquely naturally, maybe that's something that comes more easily to them. So that's just some food for thought. All in all, it's not exactly physically more difficult to hold a different color marker or paint color to the paper or canvas and use it, but what's more difficult about coloring a different skin tone, or any skin tone that you're not used to, is that you're not exactly certain how you want to present what you're trying to present to the viewer. Like, how do you successfully recreate the skin tone you're going for? And what steps may you need to take in order to get the end result that you want? Anything that challenges you to think outside of the box of how you would normally perform a task is inherently more difficult for the individual because, it just requires more of you. Whether it's planning, additional color mixing, being more aware of your composition, negative space, I don't know. All these factors. One thing is for certain though, just because something is more difficult for you to personally accomplish does not mean that you should give up and not pursue it. It just means that you have all the more room to improve your skills and become much better than what you currently are. All in all, I really do think Penguin-esque and I are both right. Doing something you're not used to is more difficult. At the same time, practicing helps it become easier for you. And it doesn't matter if you're coloring a landscape, a creature, a portrait, or whatever. Like, don't let the idea of something being different or more difficult stop you from learning how to do it. Don't let that be an excuse to not even try. I also want to take a moment, because this is really important, to say that the reality of what is difficult and what isn't depends on each individual. I really believe that each person has their own strengths and weaknesses and tasks that they find more difficult than others. Someone who colors a lot of dark skin tones may find it more challenging to color light skin tones and vice versa. But in any case, things do get easier with practice. All art is difficult at first, but with time, it does get a lot easier. Please keep in mind that what I said today is purely based on my own experiences, so I encourage you all to share your own personal experiences down below, and hopefully we can learn from one another. So, those are my thoughts. What are yours? Do you think dark skin tones are more difficult to color than light skin tones? Do you think light skin tones are more difficult to color than dark skin tones? Is there a basis for either of these arguments? What kinds of methods do you use to color skin? Do you color light and dark skin tones in the exact same way? If you rely heavily on your line art, what tips do you have for shading darker colors without losing your lines? Do you think that a person of an opaque acrylic mindset faces the same challenges as a person who is of a translucent watercolor mindset when coloring skin tones? Does artistic medium make no difference at all as it pertains to the difficulty level? Leave your thoughts below, and please, please, be respectful of one another. That's all I ask. And it definitely has been a hot minute since I've made a video like this, but I do hope that you guys enjoyed it, and maybe it gave you something to think about, and hopefully it encouraged you to get out there and try something new or a different method of coloring, or just do something about it. I really hope that it inspires people to try. And you know what? If it inspires one person to get out there and try to color different skin tones, doesn't matter what the color is, if it inspires one person, then it's all worth the effort. So, I hope you guys take care of each other, and I'll talk to you real soon in another video. Bye, guys.